The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected.
The Crown Prince announced that the number that they'll be investing in the United States is $1 trillion.
Major investments pledged to America as President Trump also pledges to end another war where he is seeking peace.
We will continue to follow the law, again, while protecting victims, but also providing maximum transparency.
And the Epstein files are becoming public within the next 30 days, or are they? The new snag that could delay their release after Congress nearly unanimously votes to declassify them all. And then the first and second ladies are joining forces to support military families, where the two are today and what they say is the future of the American military. Good evening. I'm Taylor Murray. Welcome to the National News Desk, America's News Now. Industry leaders in energy, AI, healthcare, and finance all intersecting in our nation's capital today. An investment forum hosted by the United States and Saudi Arabia follows the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's visit to the White House yesterday. President Trump said $270 billion in agreements and sales are being signed between dozens of companies.
But my message to all of the leaders and investors with us today, and they are the best in the world, is very simple. Under the Trump administration, America is back and America is open for business, and America is actually stronger than it's ever been before.
The president's growing partnership with Saudi Arabia was on full display today at the investment forum hosted by both nations. The national news desk correspondent Matt Galka reports more on big investments from the Middle Eastern country into America's economy.
The Crown Prince and I are making an alliance stronger and more powerful than it's ever been before.
The president touted growing ties between the United States and Saudi Arabia. He spoke at the U.S.-Saudi Investment Forum, heaping praise on Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman after the country pledged a $1 trillion investment in different sectors of the U.S. economy, including $270 billion in agreements between different companies at the forum.
GE Aerospace will soon be delivering dozens of new airplane engines for 787 Dreamliners in Saudi Arabia's commercial fleet. Big order. It was a big order just secured.
CEOs and senior executives from some of the biggest names in business and tech were at the forum, including Chevron, NVIDIA, Google, and Pfizer. Also at the event, and apparently back in the good graces of Trump, Tesla CEO Elon Musk, who also was on the guest list for a lavish White House dinner thrown for the Crown Prince.
We're giving them a deduction on the interest if they buy a nice Tesla car and they borrow the money. You're so lucky. I'm with you, Elon.
But embracing Saudi Arabia has been criticized by some on the left and the right. 9/11 families accuse the Crown Prince of trying to rewrite history as they continue to pursue lawsuits against Saudi Arabia for connections to the terrorist attacks. And even some MAGA supporters believe the president is too involved in foreign deals rather than being America first. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene seemed to allude to it when she responded to the president calling her a traitor to the Republican Party.
Let me tell you what a traitor is. A traitor is an American that serves foreign countries and themselves. A patriot is an American that serves the United States of America and Americans.
The president made another move to strengthen the bond with Saudi Arabia, designating the country a major non-NATO ally, joining 20 other countries, including Japan, Australia, and Israel.
Now, Matt, tell us more about that. What does it actually mean to be a non-NATO ally?
Yeah, it's a good question. And when it comes to international security, it's a pretty big deal. Being a major non-NATO ally strengthens defense cooperation, eases weapons transfers between the two nations, and would also open up Saudi Arabia as a place in the Middle East where the U.S. could feasibly store military assets. But unlike being an actual NATO ally, the title does not guarantee the U.S. would need to come to Saudi Arabia's defense if they were to be attacked by another country. In
Washington, D.C., Matt Galka, thank you. Well, the Epstein Files bill is headed to President Trump's desk to be signed within the next 10 days. The U.S. Senate immediately and unanimously passed the legislation after it passed the House yesterday, one vote shy of unanimous approval. House Speaker Mike Johnson, who did vote to release those files, also wanted some changes to the bill and said he was relying on the Senate to do that.
I made it clear for months that I thought there were serious flaws in the underlying bill, and I had hoped that the Senate would work to fix and correct those. they decided to go a different direction. That's their prerogative. I was surprised and disappointed by that, but overall, I mean, the bill has passed, Congress has spoken, and we did what was necessary.
The measure calls for a release within 30 days, but lets the DOJ temporarily hold back documents that could jeopardize an active federal investigation or ongoing prosecution.
There's new information, additional information, and again, we will continue to follow the law, to investigate any leads. If there are any victims, we encourage all victims to come forward, and we will continue to provide maximum transparency under the law.
Attorney General Pam Bondi says because of the new investigation by the Southern District of New York, the release of the Epstein files to be compelled by Congress will be limited, and officials can't comment on the open case. And while we await the release, 2 Democrats are taking heat for their communications with disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein in the lead up to his 2019 arrest on child sex trafficking charges. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins has that story from Washington.
As a constituent.
On Tuesday, U.S. Virgin Islands delegate Stacey Plaskett narrowly avoiding a censure in the House for communicating with Jeffrey Epstein during a 2019 hearing.
They've taken a text exchange which shows no participation, no assistance, no involvement in any illegal activity, and weaponized it for political theater.
At the time of the communications, Epstein was under federal investigation for sex trafficking. Plaskett says she was unaware. He would be arrested on those charges less than 4 months later.
For taking a phone call from her constituent, Jeffrey Epstein, in the middle of a hearing, and of course, I don't think there's any rule here against taking phone calls in a hearing.
Critics are calling Raskin's defense of Plaskett incredibly dishonest, pointing out that by 2019, Epstein had already served jail time and was a registered sex offender. Just a year earlier, following a meeting between Epstein and Plaskett at his New York mansion, the Democratic Party rejected a $30,000 donation from Epstein earmarked for Plaskett because of his scandals. The White House going further, calling Raskin and Plaskett sick. Also caught tangled in Epstein's web, former Harvard president, Clinton Treasury Secretary, and Obama economic advisor Larry Summers.
Larry Summers, who ran Harvard, was with him every single night, every single weekend.
Summers announcing he's stepping down from the board of OpenAI after texts and emails from 2018 and 2019 show the intimate friendship he had with Epstein, a relationship he now says was, quote, a major error of judgment. The married Summers seeking relationship advice from the convicted sex offender in his effort to seduce a woman he called a mentee. Epstein and Summers were in regular contact until the day before Epstein's 2019 arrest.
Reacting to the congressional bill forcing the Justice Department to release its Epstein files, Attorney General Pam Bondi says she'll follow the law with maximum transparency while also protecting Epstein's victims. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins reporting for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
In other news now, the U.S. House is scheduled to hold votes tonight beginning around 8:15 on a series of bills, one of which is the repeal of a provision tucked into the bill that allows senators to sue the Department of Justice up to $500,000 per violation for obtaining their phone records without disclosure. This references the Arctic Frost investigation where then special counsel Jack Smith sought records of 8 senators. House members opposed this particular language in the CR last week, but couldn't vote against it because the shutdown would have continued. Well, a man is now facing charges and charged after a woman was set on fire on a Chicago L train. This is according to authorities. Federal prosecutors are now calling this a terrorist attack. Police say 50-year-old Lawrence Reed poured fluid on a 26-year-old woman and lit her on fire Monday night on the Blue Line. The woman was taken to the hospital in critical condition with severe burns. The federal charges against former FBI Director James Comey remain up in the air following the admission today in court by interim U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan that only 2 members of the grand jury reviewed the final indictment. Comey's lawyers argue this makes the case invalid and says the charges should be summarily dismissed. Now, the DOJ offered a new response in writing to the court within the last hour of why the case should continue. Judge Michael Nachmanhoff says he will not issue a decision on the matter today, calling the issues too weighty to make a snap ruling. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says he is encouraging people to go on road trips next year for America's 250th birthday.
To love America is to see America, and to do it with your family is a beautiful thing. And so we're going to encourage people to get in their vehicles, and whether it's you're driving half a day to a park that you want to camp at, or you're going to drive multiple days across country, I think it's important that we get together as families, we put our phones away, and we spend time together, and we see this beautiful country. I think that's a great way to celebrate it.
Duffy spoke today at an aviation leadership summit hosted by Honeywell Aerospace Technologies. It was in Washington, D.C. On July 4th, 2026, the country will celebrate 250 years since the signing of the Declaration of Independence. NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch says she'll continue in her role under New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani's leadership. Today, Mamdani, who once advocated for defunding the police, announced Tisch accepted his offer to stay. She said while the two do not agree on everything, they both prioritize public safety, she says. Shootings and murders have dropped since Tisch started a year ago. Coming up, a former Olympian now at the top of the FBI's most wanted list. The long new list of charges just unveiled by the federal government. Then the weather pattern meteorologists are tracking that could make this December particularly cold and snowy. Plus, an independent journalist shares how to spot Antifa members and the tactics they use during protests. We're back in 90 seconds. Around $2.6 million worth of what's believed to be meth has been confiscated from a tractor trailer in Texas, according to Customs and Border Protection. CBP officers found nearly 300 pounds of the drug hidden in a truck carrying batteries in Laredo last Friday. But officials didn't say if they arrested anyone, but special agents are investigating. Well, the U.S. State Department is raising the reward from $10 to $15 million for information leading to the arrest or conviction of a former Olympian from Canada. In a brand new indictment, Ryan James Wedding is charged with 2 additional counts of witness tampering and intimidation, murder, money laundering, and drug trafficking. That's on top of previous charges. Our Christine Frizzell reports.
From the 2002 Winter Olympics, Canadian snowboarder Ryan James Wedding more recently gained notoriety for something else, landing on the FBI's top 10 most wanted list.
Make no mistake, Ryan Wedding is extremely dangerous. He's extremely violent, and he's extremely wealthy. He's being protected by the Sinaloa cartel, along with others in the country of Mexico.
Charges include running a transnational drug operation that shipped massive amounts of fentanyl, heroin, methamphetamine, and especially cocaine through Colombia and Mexico for distribution in Canada and the United States.
That's how much cocaine, the weight of 40 cars, he is bringing into our country a year.
He and his associates are also accused of money laundering, witness tampering, and of orchestrating the murders of several people, including an FBI witness shot in the head 5 times in a restaurant in Medellin.
His lawyer told him if you kill this witness, the case would be dismissed. That lawyer is now in custody.
While Wedding is still at large, several other people connected to him have now been arrested. The State Department offering $15 million for information leading to his arrest.
For those of you out there that have any information on Ryan Wedding, now is the time to speak up. Now is the time to help us.
Justice Department officials made clear their counterparts in both Canada and Mexico are cooperating in this effort. They say several arrests have already been made, just not the most important one. I'm Christine Frizzau for the National News Desk.
The first and second ladies of the United States are teaming up with a pre-Thanksgiving visit to military families in North Carolina today. Melania Trump and Usha Vance making stops at Marine Corps Air Station New River and Camp Lejeune and met with students at schools on both the bases. At Camp Lejeune, the pair spoke about their connections to the military as well as their vision for the future of America's armed forces.
It's such an honor to be here with you at Camp Lejeune, home of some of the finest Marines and military families in our nation. And for me, it's particularly special to be right around the corner from Cherry Point, where my husband JD was stationed. He's told me so many stories about his time in Eastern North Carolina that this feels like home.
Technology is changing the art of war. Predictably, AI will alter war more profoundly than any technology since nuclear weapons.
And this trip marks the women's first joint appearance without their husbands since the Trump-Vance administration began in January. President Trump says the U.S. is getting involved in efforts to strike peace in Sudan amid an ongoing brutal civil war. This comes at the request, he says, of Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. The State Department has already said the U.S. is working with international partners, including Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and the United Arab Emirates, to broker an end to the war. Today, the president posted on his Truth Social platform calling Sudan the most violent place on earth, and the single biggest humanitarian crisis after committing greater U.S. involvement during a speech earlier in the day.
It was not on my my charts to be involved in that. I thought it was just something that was crazy and out of control. But I just see how important that is to you and to a lot of your friends in the room. Sudan, and we're going to start working in Sudan.
The 2.5-year war between the Sudanese army and the Paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, has displaced millions, sparked famine, and led to claims of genocide. The Secretary of the U.S. Army, as well as several top generals, are in Ukraine today in an effort to restart peace talks there with Russia. Secretary Daniel Driscoll will meet tomorrow with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, who is in Ankara today, talking with the president of Turkey, President Erdogan, about the latest peace proposals. Now, Reuters reports the new plan pushed by the United States could see Ukraine give up some land in order to end the war. It could be a particularly cold and snowy December in parts of the United States. Meteorologists say a weakening polar vortex will cause a drastic weather pattern shift, sending Arctic air south. It could be one of the earliest major polar vortex events on record. But scientists say it's too soon to tell precisely which areas will be impacted. So stay tuned for that. All right, Allegiant Air pilots are threatening to go on strike over pay and scheduling. They picketed at 22 U.S. airports yesterday, demanding that contract negotiations resume.
Our current contract was approved over 10 years ago. And in that time, a lot of things have changed in the industry. And among those being that pretty much every other airline has their contracts have advanced and improved, while Allegiant's has not.
Allegiant Air has offered a competitive package that includes wage and retirement increases and a retention bonus. The company said it is working with the National Mediation Board to finalize an agreement. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. We're taking the pulse of America, and we start with the debate over the future of a Charlie Kirk Memorial at Utah Valley University.
polarizing debate has emerged on campus, with students pushing competing petitions on change.org. One petition with more than 15,000 signatures calls on UVU to prevent a Charlie Kirk memorial, calling him a controversial figure whose views do not represent values of inclusivity and diversity. A dueling petition in support of the memorial has nearly 22,000 signatures and says it would both honor Charlie Kirk and serve as a reminder of the value of communication over violence. The university formed its own independent memorial committee, which includes students, political leaders, and other stakeholders. Turning Point USA, which is advocating for the memorial, tells 2 News that opposition represents a vocal minority. Among students, the emotional divide is clear.
While it was traumatic, I think there should be something in place so that we remember what happened.
A shortage of turkeys caused by avian influenza over the past year or so. Just economy is another big player, just like anything else out there. Everything is going up as far as prices go.
Along with the price increases, Todd says producers have seen an interesting trend. He warns that this is just part of the state's agricultural crisis, which has already seen farmers go bankrupt and lose their farms. The Arkansas Farm Bureau says higher prices vary and sometimes depend on where consumers purchase their products.
It kind of depends on where you are in the state, where the grocery stores are, depending on if you're in an urban area or a rural area.
But despite the nationwide wholesale price increases, the Farm Bureau is actually seeing a different, more promising trend in Arkansas.
The data that we're seeing is turkeys are getting cheaper for this Thanksgiving.
Coming up, a journalist who experienced violence from Antifa explains how to identify members of this domestic terrorist organization. You're not going to want to miss this. Since taking office, President Trump has prioritized cracking down on Antifa, even designating it as a domestic terrorist organization. The White House recently hosted a roundtable with journalists who shared their stories of Antifa violence, including Andy Ngo. And the National News Desk, Jeff Harris, spoke with him about his experiences with the group.
For years, Ngo has reported on street protests, particularly those involving Antifa. Our discussion focused not only on his experience being attacked by Antifa protesters, but also how to identify Antifa members, their tactics, and how they operate. From specific clothing to signs with certain symbols and logos, Ngo says there are ways to identify Antifa members despite not having official national leadership.
The black flag of anarchy plus the red flag of communism, that two together is the main logo symbol of Antifa.
An independent journalist and author, Ngo has been very outspoken, including at the Trump administration's Antifa roundtable in October, about his violent encounters with Antifa while covering protests, including a brutal attack in 2019 in Portland, Oregon.
And I saw I had blood running out of from my eyes and from my ears.
Also years later in 2021, on the one-year anniversary of the death of George Floyd.
Chased through downtown Portland on a Friday night and severely beaten and was hospitalized again.
Now, aside from clothing and signs, Ngo says Antifa also has teams on the ground with designated roles, some keeping an eye out on anyone coming into contact with their direct action.
When you get in closer, then you see those in the black bloc, and these are usually people who are quite ready for violent direct action, and by that I mean getting into fights and brawls.
Cracking down on Antifa has been a priority for the Trump administration. In September, the president designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. Then months later, that designation expanding overseas, designating 4 European Antifa groups based in Germany, Italy, and Greece, putting them in the same category as ISIS.
You should see what we have on these people. These are bad people. These are people that want to destroy our country. We're not going to let it happen.
Earlier this month, the Justice Department also launching an investigation into the violent riots outside a Turning Point event at UC Berkeley. Attorney General Pam Bondi suggesting it could be Antifa-related.
Look at Antifa, again, what we were just saying at Berkeley. That could be material support for terrorism. So yes, there are potential criminal charges, but there are civil charges as well.
In Texas, 9 alleged Antifa members were also recently federally indicted in connection to the shooting at the Prairieland ICE facility this summer. The first ever indictments linked specifically to Antifa. I'm Jeff Harris reporting from Washington.
Coming up, how you can make this holiday season brighter for children in need. Operation Santa is now open for letter adoption, guys. I just love this story. Every year, the U.S. Postal Service encourages individuals, families, workplaces, and community groups to help Santa with letters written to him by children across the country as his elves are hard at work to make the holiday season brighter for those in need. So adopters can search for letters at USPS OperationSanta.com. This year, there is a special emphasis on adopting family letters as a team to ensure the requests for everyone in any given household are fulfilled all at once by the North Pole. And the UPS says adoptees partnering with jolly old St. Nick, of course, should send gifts no later than December 13th. A great idea. That does it for this edition of the National News Desk. I'm Taylor Murray. Thanks for watching.